Hello and welcome to another edition of Mailbag. What is Mailbag? Well, Mailbag is a feature of the channel where you guys leave lots of comments on the channel and I attempt to answer those comments, or if I can't answer those comments, I throw it out to you guys who have more knowledge on some of this stuff than I do. So let's get into the first mailbag of this session. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. Next question comes from Lord Bacchus. Sounds like it needs to be some sort of medieval movie, wielding a sword and presiding over your kingdom. Anyway, this was in response to Kronos 3, Game Changer or Just an Update, a Sunday morning rant I did in January 2025. And Lord Bacchus writes, the problem with the Korg Kronos is that Korg does not have any resources to reprogram it. A theme that has come up time and time again in comments. I haven't put all the comments into the comment section and the mailbag, but this is a theme that comes up, and it somehow feels like they've lost the key to the code. And why not set it back to the open architecture of the Oasis and start from there? So as I said, pretty constant theme. If you look at the user groups around Kronos 3, if you look at the reasons why it's not 64-bit, if you look at a number of issues about why, features on the Kronos 3 and why couldn't it have this and why couldn't it have that, and the theme is they've kind of lost the expertise in this area. All the Oasis programmers have since sort of disappeared from the company, and there's not very many people. So that's quite a constant theme I see running through lots of things. But what I would say is that the Oasis is the original code base. The Kronos obviously was an uplift. Nautilus has been an uplift again. But I work in the IT industry. I know guys that do this stuff for a living, and if you've got a team of professionals in, you could probably reverse engineer the code quite easily. Find out how it's all sort of hang together. I mean, it wouldn't be necessarily a quick process. I would, even if you could run some sort of AI bot at it, it wouldn't necessarily be particularly quick. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to understand why things work in the way they work. So you'd have to go back, retrospectively document it, and then you could work out how you uplift it. In simple terms, do I think it would be a massive task to uplift it to a 64-bit operating system? No, I don't. But I think it would take a degree of time. I think it's time intensive, having to go through all the code and take out all the 32-bit elements. I think probably the limitation, definitely on Kronos 2, is the interfaces with other bits of the synthesizer. I think that's probably where more the issue is. Can those bits work on a 64-bit bus as opposed to what they currently work on? I think that's probably more where the limitation is. I don't think the limitation is necessarily the code, but I think the hardware limits what they can do with the code. That's my personal view. I've got absolutely nothing from Korg or anybody else to back it up, but having worked in operational technology for the last 10 years or so, which is one of the areas I work in, I know that quite often you can't upgrade stuff because the hardware just simply won't take it. So there you go. Next question comes from Acronym Snake. Do love that one. And this was a response to Espen Craft's video Blows Up, a Sunday morning rant I did in October 2024, just after Espen had recorded his It's All a Scam video. And Acronym Snake writes, I will provide you with an example. There is a hardware version of the Roland System-1 and there is a software version of the Roland System-1. The engine is literally the same, but with the hardware version I fried my headphones. It has so much dynamic range, it has very hot outputs, lots of gain, like an endless with no distortion. With the software version of the System-1 you can constantly hit the 0 dB limit. And in the DAW you would need to remove all the faders or move all the faders down and leave lots of headroom. Then I used a powerful output amplifier to boost the volume in order to get the same dynamic range from the real hardware System-1. And you still sometimes hit that 0 dB limit. Roland hardware synths have very good DACs with lots of power. This is essential to me. I love high dynamic range, ear-piercing eardrums and fried headphones. I like fried eggs, not fried headphones, I have to be honest. But you are making really good points, and to be honest, apart from downloading the plugins to the Roland synth, I tend not to use the Roland cloud version of the System-1 or the System-8. In fact, there's my System-8 sitting just underneath the mascots today. Because I have been using it, funny enough, recently. Come on to that. There's some videos to come on the channel. Anyway, the beauty of the hardware is the character of the instruments coloured by the circuitry that's used to generate the sound. The software versions of the synth have to rely on the audio interface to generate the sound. Now that may be a subtle difference, but you know, it's one of the things that gave the character of the 808 the 808, and some early synthesizers like the Juno 106, the Juno 60, the Juno 6, and the Jupiter 8, their characteristics because of how the circuitry interacted and generated the tone. And also, you know, in some of the earlier synths, I mean, the Jupiter 8 is one of the classics. You really need to switch the thing on for half an hour before you played it because it warmed up, and when it warmed up, the tonal characteristics of the synthesizer did change. That is kind of well known. So in some instances, it's kind of indistinguishable. With the modern instruments, it is kind of indistinguishable, but you still have a degree of digital to analog conversion going on, and you know, different. If you know, for argument's sake, if you use Focusrite as your output mechanism, they're going to have certain amps in them. If you use Behringer as your interface, they're going to have different preamps, amps in them. If you play everything back through something like Korg Kronos, they have different digital analog converters in them. So everything has, and they all work. Although they do the same job, they all work subtly differently, and the circuitry that's put around them is slightly different. So you get, you know, certain harmonic, what's the word I'm looking for? Harmonic characteristics that are generated by using the hardware. So, sorry, I like hardware. Can't help it. Not going to change in the short term. So I'm kind of stuck with it.